that not all of the general public is required to or obligated to obtain a driver's license.
None of the general public is required to obtain a driver's license.
Unless they want to be a driver.
If they want to get paid to haul property or persons, like a taxi driver, they have to have a license. If they want to make a living at it, that's when they have to be licensed. So in June of 1995, I was at a legislative hearing. New laws were being talked about, considered, and this gentleman from the Department of Justice named John Ellis, longtime enemy of mine already for years prior to that, was speaking, and I was going to testify against his bill idea that he was hoping to get passed, and he did. I was going to testify against it, and he was telling this group of legislators, senators, he said equal protection under the law requires you to pass this bill this year, because last legislative session you already gave my division of the Department of Justice the authority to suspend the licenses of drivers. So this year you must pass this law, which allows us to suspend the licenses of doctors, architects, landscapers, and other professionals. And I was kind of familiar with equal protection under the law, and I heard him tell all of us in the room, that driver licenses are for professionals. And I'm going, that's not what most of us do. Most of us aren't making money when we get behind the wheel of our car, our personal use vehicle. We're just traveling somewhere. And that's what I learned.
Once you discovered this, you decided to research it. And the more you researched it, and the more you communicated with certain officials within certain agencies, the harder your life became.
Oh yeah, as I began to ask questions to verify, to gain substantive information, stuff that I could read and show other people, yeah, it got harder, and I got banned from talking, I got banned from calling, I got banned from being in certain places, and yeah, no one wanted to answer any questions that I had. No one wanted to show me any documents they had. It was a very lonely experience.
It is a very lonely experience. And when you say banned from talking and banned from going to certain places, you're talking about redressing the government for grievances. You can't even.
This is a big grievance, yeah.
Yeah, and you can't. You're forbidden from talking to certain agencies.
I'm not only forbidden by certain agencies, but they don't dare even put it in writing. Like the DMV, I will attempt to get a little piece of information from the so-called consumer hotline, right? And they'll say, "Is this Richard? You know you're not supposed to call here. I can't continue this conversation. I'm hanging up now." But they won't tell me anything about why. They won't tell me that there's a document. There has to be a document. They won't tell me, but they did tell me it's because there's a restraining order against you. I happen to know.
Restraining or stalking order?
Restraining. They say restraining order. The stalking order is against one, it's about two people interacting. Restraining order, they're alleging that I'm restrained from talking to an agency. And I ended up calling the state court administrator's office, and I said, can you check out some restraining orders for me? I've heard that I routinely violate valid restraining orders. And the public records advocate for Oregon is the one who told me that. She emailed me and said that. So I'm curious about all these restraining orders that I routinely violate. And I gave them, I guess, 3 days, and then I called them back, and I said, well, what did you find? He said, there aren't any restraining orders against you, and it looks like there never have been in Oregon. That's not on the table. I go, oh, that's kind of what I thought. But I've heard all these other stories about many restraining orders from various state agencies, like the Secretary of State, the Legislative Assembly, and other, the city of Portland, and different places that have these.
Even libraries, right? You can't even go into libraries.
That was all city buildings, not particularly a library, but all City of Salem buildings, public buildings in the City of Salem. Yeah.
So some cities and state buildings, you're prohibited to go in because of what you've discovered and what you've been researching.
Mm-hmm.
And you just want your life back.
It would be nice to walk around like one of the people I claim to be. Every time I get a chance to write it down, I say, I'm an Oregonian. I'm one of the people. But no one wants to give me credit for that.
So ultimately, what you've discovered, or would it be fair for me to say that not all of the general public is required to or obligated to obtain a driver's license?
None of the general public is required to obtain a driver's license.
Unless they want to be a driver.
If they want to get paid to haul property or persons, like a taxi driver, they have to have a license. If they want to make a living at it, that's when they have to be licensed.
And what state do you think started this?
Well, there was a couple of other states prior to Oregon, but Oregon came into it in 1905, and it was one of the earliest ones. And Oregon has been a leader in the evolution of driving ever since.
Who was the director of the DMV in 1905?
They didn't have a DMV in 1905. The person, and there's a difference between people and person, but the person who issued title and registration and driver licensing, that was the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of State still issues licenses to business licenses. That's why they were doing it, because they have this corporate division of the Secretary of State's office, and that's what the Secretary of State's office does, issues licenses to people, turns them into persons.
For business purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And so the driver's license, was that for farmers?
No. Farmers are the people, and they do their jobs as people. They survive, and they sell their excess produce to the people.
In the hearing for Senate Bill 124, there was some talk about farmers doing it on their trucks in case they wanted to cross county and state lines. They were talking about that being an option, and it was almost like that was their in for every. That's how I kind of.
Okay. You're talking about the minutes in the.
Yeah, and actually listening
into their discussion on it. It wasn't in the Exhibit B.
No, right. But it was in the actual conversation in the hearing.
Right, and they use that, but farmers are transitional. I mean, what they do on their land to make to survive, to make a living, is that is commercial. It's a phase of, but they're hauling their own stuff. They're not making an agreement with somebody. I'll haul your stuff if you give me so much money. They're not doing that. And it's that. It is the hauling of other people's stuff to market, trafficking. And that's where traffic, it's trafficking in merchandise, trafficking for farmers, trafficking in produce. That is transitional between the people who don't do anything to make money when they're driving. Farmers make money, but they're doing it with their own stuff
and on their property. I mean,
and on their property, yeah.
And when they're using their highways, it's their highways. So I mean,
yeah,